Good morning, Navarra Outdoor Education, Chotto Hill Farm, Project Huerta, and yoga and conscious living in Navarra, and of course the cheeky monkey warrior crap. I'm just here with my dogs, walking them. Popcorn's on a lead because she's in season and she's a dirty little bitch. And this morning's 101-24 class is about writing skills for the exam. So I'll give you general advice, mainly focused on B2 plus students, because the formats and structures are slightly different. And obviously we have to think about the different formats and word counts that the different examining boards are using. But there is some general information, and that will be in this sequence of video. So as mentioned, the word count's important, and usually there's a percentage range of how short or how much more you can write related to that word count. And depending on the examining bodies will depend on how much they penalise you for that. So please be aware of that before you're sitting in the exam. When you're there, you get given your task. Just take a moment, pause, and think just exactly what is it they're asking me to do. Because sometimes they're tricky. Sometimes they give you a letter or an email, and then they ask you in the task to write a report based on that letter. And off you go, writing an email using all of the specific language for emails. That is incorrect to do. Do not do that. You'll lose marks if you write in the wrong structure. So identify, what is it they're exactly asking you to do? What structure is it I'm using? Is it formal or informal language? So formal and informal language, there's differences, isn't there? Yes. Formal language should avoid expressions, generally avoid phrasal verbs, although it's a different point altogether, but avoid phrasal verbs if possible. Try and use a more professional formal language. No contractions. And, for things like writing letters and emails, phrases like "I'm looking forward to receiving your reply" is an example of an informal penultimate phrase for your letter or email. Whereas if I said "I look" in the infinitive, I look forward to solving this issue as soon as possible, that is a formal example of a sentence. Because we're using it in the infinitive, not in the continuous. Just little points like that. You also have to think about how you're addressing that letter. So if you're writing to a person you know, be it their first name or surname, it could be "Dear Mr. Jones," and at the end of the letter or email it should be "Yours sincerely." However, if you're addressing the letter "Dear Sir, Madam," or "For whom it may concern," which is very formal, often for complaints, that's a great phrase. It should be finished with "Yours faithfully." Faithfully. Okay? Boom. So, imagine you've highlighted the format, the style, you know what you're going to do. I suggest that you break down your writing exams into 3 stages. Those 3 stages are planning, doing, which is a writing part, and reviewing. Plan, do, review. And usually in an academic course or an intensive course, after I've seen a couple of examples of where the student is at with their writing skills, I ask them to focus on this way of doing the exam and use half the allocated time for the planning. It is really important that you are sitting there planning your writings, not just gonzo writing, stream of thought. That's difficult to do in your own language, and in another language that you're learning, you're going to make so many avoidable mistakes. It's unbelievable. The planning stage is super important. So within the planning stage, you got time, give yourself 2 minutes, brainstorm. Brainstorm the vocabulary in any which way you like. Usually a spidergram is quite good because you can then link from one little bubble to the next little point to the next, and your key vocabulary can kind of flow within your brainstorm, and other thoughts and concepts might come up. Boom. 2 to 5 minutes on the brainstorm within the planning stage. Then think about the structure and the format, and write out an outline of the format. Introduction, main body, fors and against, and conclusion. That would be the typical structure for an essay. Remember, with an essay, you should be using the passive voice. You should be speaking in the third person, and then using your own opinion, if you like, at the end. It's a typical essay format. It should be balanced, so you should be using all the language and synonyms you have for advantages, disadvantages, drawbacks, pluses, upsides, downsides, etc. Positive and negative points. A balanced argument is what they're looking for in an essay. Brainstorm, get your key vocabulary, then write out the basic structure that you're going to use. Then try and place, or just using numbers on your spider diagram. Number 1 for paragraph 1, number 2 for paragraph 2. Try and place the vocabulary, or decide where you're going to use your key vocabulary or key phrases within the structure and format of your writing. So at this stage, your writing should be taking shape. You know, oh, I've got this good vocabulary in this part, and I've said this here. We can use the same linking and joining language. So this is where repetition and practice comes into play, to link it all together. Yeah. Once you've started doing this, and I know this from experience with students, it becomes really easy, and you can reduce down your planning time. Remember, I said to use at least half of your writing time at the beginning, but obviously everybody's different. You can adapt this information to suit you, and most people find that they can reduce down their planning stage by at least 30 to 50% if you've practiced well. You do not move up from your planning stage until you've got to the point where you're writing complete sentences with good structure. The opposite is just writing without any planning and without much thought. You're not going to engage with the key high-level structures that you know. Whereas if you do it this way, you could have your key structures written out beforehand. A bit of passive voice, maybe a rhetorical question to finish the initial introduction paragraph. Some conditional freeze in there, all sorts. And you can look at those sentence structures as a standalone sentence structure, check that it all fits and works together, and then later on when you come to the doing stage, you just transfer it in. Boom. You avoid so many mistakes by doing that, and you're engaging with higher level content, vocab and structure. So we're happy with our plan. We've got some good content there, some nice language, clear on our structure, and we've written out some of these more complex sentences that we can just slot in to our writing. You now go on to the doing stage and you write, and you literally transfer the information from one point into there. You've already got your linking language that you're using, furthermore, consequently, etc., etc. And so it's all just about linking and joining it together and then doing the writing. And it should flow a lot more easily. You're not going to waste time trying to think of concepts because you've already done that in the planning stage. Yeah, so the planning stage usually takes up more time than the actual doing stage. Okay, and you write it out. Boom. Clear handwriting, please. Examiners are not going to struggle to try and decipher your cryptic handwriting and script. No, you'll just get a big fat 0 mark or less points. Okay, don't make the job difficult for the examiner, and also try and remain positive in the speaking, in the writings. Trust me, if you're being super positive with a smile on your face or in the language that you're using, it will affect your mark. Yeah, it does. So we've done the doing, and we're now on to the final stage. This could be 5 minutes or 10 minutes, within that range, and it's the reviewing. So that's reviewing what you've written, or we can put it as checking, and you make the same mistakes. So when you have a good teacher who makes you do writing throughout the year, between the two of you, you can highlight the common mistakes that you make. Certain things such as writing is instead of it is, or he is, she is, using pronouns with is. The reason you do that is because in Spanish you say blah 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 blah, es muy importante. So you just put es as is. No, it is more important. You drop pronouns. So one way to look at it is in every sentence you need the subject, and then if there's a second clause, then you need a pronoun within there. That's a common mistake. Another common mistake you guys make, hey, calm down, is you put s's on your adjectives when you have a plural noun, because in Spanish that's what you do. And so you can check and go back specifically for that. Use of prepositions is often a disaster, between differences between in and on. And so what you do is, if you've highlighted with your teacher the common mistakes you make, well, when you're in your checking phase, you read back through your text looking for specific errors. Okay, this time I'm going to look for my use of pronouns. Okay, good. I'm going to read through and check again. Now I'm going to look for prepositional use, etc, etc. I'm going to check to make sure I haven't used any contractions when it's meant to be formal. Those common mistakes you should know through practice and correction, slow time. What was I going to say about that? There's no point It's not effective to read through your text just quickly, reading it through. Because what you're effectively doing is translating it into Spanish. And when you're translating it into Spanish, you won't pick up on the common mistakes that you make because of the language interference from one language to another. You can save so many points by practicing correcting text. So correcting your own text is useful, but if you're in a class or if you're studying or you know anyone else who's studying, swap each other's writings. Send a little WhatsApp, make a little WhatsApp group or Facebook private group and share them in there, and you can correct each other's. You will save a ton of marks by correcting your own errors and mistakes in the exam. And that, my friends, is about it for today, because my arm is getting fripping pulled off by this silly dog and I want to enjoy my walk. Anyway, you got any questions, you come speak to the cheeky monkey or any of the Navarra outdoor education crew. Alright?